What's up, everybody? What's up, people of the world out in YouTube land? What's happening? This is Mark Z's Drumcast. Thank you for coming over and hanging out. I appreciate it very much. There's a lot of great things, a lot of cool innovations happening here at Mark Z's Drumcast. And you are lucky enough to be here on the ground floor. Right, so we're introducing the hand cam. I am parched. We're introducing the hand cam. Right, so now we have an area or a camera focused on my hands. The angle's not great right now, but we are in the process of adjusting. Right. It's very, very cool. I think what we're ultimately going to have is probably a more top-down view of my hands. I think that'll be better. I'm still working out logistics and whatnot, and you know, how we achieve that with what I have right here right now. But this is one way, right? This is one thought, but this is basically going to be the idea. It'll be more of a top-down view, though, so you could see my hands exactly what I'm doing, especially when we're talking about practice, which is today's topic, by the way, on Mark Z's Drumcast. Today's topic is going to be practice. So we're going to go over some basic exercises, warm-ups, if you will, before you actually practice. And what I'd like to do is talk about how we practice. Okay, practice is super important. Practice is almost all important, but it's very, very important part of our development and our growth as drummers and musicians. Practice is one of those things that could easily be overlooked. One of those things that can easily be forgotten about. And I find, I've been teaching a long time. Practice is something that also needs to be taught. I need to teach my students about practice. Sometimes I need to make my students aware that practice is even a thing. I think sometimes my students come in thinking that they come to their lesson and then they just get better. Which to a degree is true because they are learning new things. And we do play in practice. So technically you could say that their lesson, they're getting one day's worth of practice. So they technically should be getting a little bit better week in and week out. But what I'm quick to point out to my students is that a lesson is not practice time. A lesson cannot be counted as practice time. And I encourage my students to practice after they get back from their lesson. Because not only do we not count a lesson as practice time, but if you practice the day of your lesson, everything will be fresh in your mind, and you will be able to move forward into the next practice day with a little more reinforcement of the previous lesson. Because you practice those things that first day that you had that lesson, that first day you learned them, you practice them. That just gives you a little bit more reinforcement. Gives you just a little bit more retention. That's the word. Retention of what you learned that day. Listen, it's tough enough, and I get it, to keep track of all the things we have to do every day. But if you make practice a habit, I promise, it will pay huge dividends. I got to do a MarkZ's Drumcast on a cable management. Oh boy. You know, the more and more electronic we get, and the more we add to our studios, whether it be lighting, cameras, amplifiers, you name it, electronics, external gear, mixing board, drum sets, we have to supply power to all these things through cables. We oftentimes have to connect everything together with cables. So cable management is huge. And that's not because, we'll go back to the overhead for now. That's not because I want to draw your attention to my poor cable management, because I'm sure now, as I'm saying this, you're looking at my drums and you're going like, oh my God, why is that up there? And why is that going through that way? And why is that twisted around the other one, going in opposite directions? Listen, it's true, right? There is no shortage of black spaghetti in my studio. Cable management is a real thing. So I'm gonna do a drumcast on that, because it really is important. Not only to be able to route your cables appropriately and not trip over things and not have stuff hanging everywhere. And not just because it's aesthetically pleasing to have your cables run properly, but it gives you a sense of calm. If you're like me, if you have chaos all around you and clutter and things out of place, it produces a certain amount of anxiety. For me, I try to keep a neat place, but what happens for me, it's just like when I build a piece of IKEA furniture, right? In my excitement to put this piece of furniture together and start to use it, I often neglect the first most important step in putting this stuff together, and that is instructions, reading the instructions. I often don't even look at the instructions because, you know, I'm very smart and near genius level intellect, if not beyond genius level intellect in my own mind. And so I look at this, I'm like, yeah, I know exactly how to put this together. Until I get part of the way through, maybe a third of the way through, and the things things are showing that aren't supposed to be showing. In other words, like the side panels are facing outwards and the wrong surface is showing, and or things like that. Or I've done something before I was supposed to do something else, so now I can't get that other part in there because the other two parts are already together. So that happens quite often. I've learned, though, to now get the instruction booklet first, because of course you have to check all the parts that make sure everything's there before you start. And then even so, there's usually a couple of pieces left over. You know, I checked all of this. It was exactly the right amount of parts. But why did they give us extra? I don't know. I don't know if they gave us extra. But anyway, that's me building IKEA furniture. I'm getting better. I'm working on it. But it's the same thing. In my excitement to get my brand new TD50K V2 Roland drum kit together, maybe I didn't spend a lot of time with cable management. And also a lot of it is inside the rack. So, you know, whatever cable management is messy on the outside is all me, because the company was cool enough to run a lot of the cabling inside the rack. So really, I need to clean this up. But anyway, I'm way off track. I'm way off topic. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice time. And, you know, we started talking about practice time because of this handy cam or hand cam, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what I want to call it. But the cam that will show my hands and what I'm doing. So let me just talk a little bit about good warm-ups, right? Good warm-ups are very important, because when we warm up, hey buddy, I didn't realize my buddy's here. Hey man, you could stay. I'm sorry, I hit the bass drum and kind of woke him up. He was chilling out in the back corner of my rug. Well, I don't have the overhead cam on, but anyway, so now he's gonna go. Well, he'll be back. Come on in if you want. Come in and hang out. So when we're warming up, warm-ups are great because, number one, We need to warm up those muscles. We need to get the blood flowing through the hands, the fingers, the wrists, the arms, all over the place, the feet, the ankles, the legs, before we start to play. First of all, not that there's a huge risk of injury playing drums, but any athlete will tell you that a good warm-up session and a good stretching session reduces the stress on the joints, on the muscles, reduces any risk of injury, and also keeps us relaxed. That's the most important part. When we're playing drums, we really want to be relaxed. We don't want to be tense. We don't want to be tight. So we want to make sure that we kind of shake out, right, a little bit. We do some open and closes with our hands. We get some blood flowing. We could do some light stretching. We put our hands together. We can go back and forth with our fingers. But stretching is a good idea. I think I'll touch on that in another video. But just to get stuff flowing, stuff moving, before we even pick up the drumsticks, right? We can kind of work our neck around. We can bring our shoulders up and back and up and down. And just try to relax. We get our shoulders at our sides. Our shoulders at our sides. No, our arms at our sides. Our shoulders relaxed. Then we could start doing a simple warm-up, a simple single stroke warm-up. Now when I warm up and when I practice, I tend to like to practice in an exaggerated fashion. And I don't play in an exaggerated fashion. I like to warm up in an exaggerated fashion, which means that I want to do my upstrokes exaggerated, downstrokes exaggerated. I want to really kind of do everything big so that I get my body warmed up and I get my muscles used to that kind of motion. And then later on, I can control that motion. I can temper that motion. When we're playing, I'm not going to be flailing my arms all around. But when I'm practicing, it's a good idea to be a little more exaggerated. And what I mean by that is, let's say we're doing a single stroke roll. My elbows are at my sides, my shoulders are relaxed, my arms are relaxed, my neck, everything is relaxed. And I start out in the ready position with a good hand position, which if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll find a couple of videos on grip, right? Because our grip is the foundation upon which everything we do in drumming is built, the grip. So I have some grip videos up there that you could watch. But the one thing we want to do is we want to stay relaxed. And when we start to do our single stroke roll, I want to bring the stick way up to the ceiling, like point it up to the ceiling each time, right? If we're not going to, or if we're going to start with snap ups, we can do some snap ups, which means we're not hitting the drum. We're just putting the drum, we're putting the sticks close to the drum and we're snapping that hand up. This is getting our hands used to that motion of pulling that stick up. The time when we're going to be using this is when we're playing accents. So we could be playing along and we might have certain notes that we're going to accent. So when we accent, we want to bring that stick up higher. We want to snap that stick up higher than normal, than all of the other strokes involved, so that we can come down louder, more powerful, and create that accent. So snap ups are good because we do want to have a good upward motion, a good snap up, because then it gives us a good height from which to bring down our stroke. And the reason why we want to have a good height on our stroke is so that, actually, you know what? Let me find my practice pad right here. We want to have good height on our stroke because that will give us the best rebound possible. So in case you're wondering, I am using a Vader percussion practice pad. It's a dual surface practice pad. It's got a softer surface on the top and a harder surface down on the bottom. And that just simulates different types of drums. The harder surface is going to act more like a marching band snare drum, which is tensioned very tightly, and it's made of a different material than a normal snare drum that we would use on a drum set. And then the top portion of the pad is made to feel like a softer snare drum that we would find on a drum kit, on a drum set. So the reason why we have two different surfaces is so that when we are practicing our rudiments, if we want to go maybe side by side, this way, we can have our left hand with one sound, our right hand with the other sound. And as we're doing our rudiments, let's say paradiddles, we could start to hear the different rhythms on each hand. Whereas if you're playing your paradiddles on one surface, it could end up sounding like a single stroke roll. So if we can separate the hands onto two different surfaces with two different sounds, we can really get a sense of the rhythms that are being created by playing paradiddles, the rhythms that are being created on each hand. So practice your snap ups, get really good at snapping those hands up, pointing those sticks to the ceiling, up, 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 and then we can start with our single stroke rolls. When we're doing our single stroke rolls, we want to snap that stick up, bring it down to the surface of the drum or the pad, and go back and forth. We want to hit in the same spot each time. We want to bring our stick straight up and down. We don't want a sideways kind of motion. We want straight up and down. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Also, it keeps our accuracy there so that we're not smacking our sticks together. We're not crossing paths and increasing the chance of smacking our sticks together. And we're able to hit in relatively the same spot. And bringing that stick up nice and high, bringing it down, and letting that stick bounce off the surface of the drum. That's just naturally what it wants to do. And we use that rebound in order to conserve our own energy. So we're not up and down every time. We're hitting, and the stick is actually forcing our hands back up a bit. So it's up to us how high we allow that stick to rebound by the amount of pressure we add with our fingers. So we want to practice, we want to warm up. Double strokes we practice. We warm up with our double strokes. Right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. We also want to pay attention to our hands. Are our hands doing similar things to each other? Do we have one hand that we feel more comfortable with, that we feel stronger with, that we feel faster with? Whatever that hand is, in my case it's my right hand, I want to try to mimic what I'm doing on my right hand with my left hand. This way I can have a good balance of power between both hands, and I can start to train my left hand to get close to where my right hand is, because my left hand is not as strong, fast, or coordinated as my right hand. And that's a work in progress. That's a work we do all the time. So double strokes. And then the paradiddles. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. So when we are doing our paradiddles, we can turn our practice pad sideways, and we can have one surface on the right, the softer surface, the harder surface on the left, and then we could play our paradiddles. And we can hear the difference in the rhythms. When we start to get into more complex rhythms, when we start working through maybe a stick control book, that's a fun way to do it. And if you don't have a dual surface pad like this, you have a one practice pad with one surface, then set up a pillow next to it. Right hand on the pillow, left hand on the pad, like anything, use your imagination. There's a lot of ways we can practice. Even if we don't have all the gear maybe we'd want to have, there's a lot of ways to practice. I also want to show you, which is going to be a big part of my course, because there will be a big beginner section. We're going to talk about how to practice and how to start playing drums without a drum set, without a practice pad, without drumsticks. Okay, it's possible. Drumming is less about hitting things with things than it is about learning to play different rhythms with our different limbs, training our brain to multitask and have four-way independence, training our brain to process what we're hearing, process what we're seeing on a sheet of sheet music. It's more about that. So we can get started on those things and we can build a strong foundation without a drum set, without drumsticks, without a practice pad. Okay, so if you want to learn more about that, go over to my Patreon, MarkZDrums. I'm going to start to upload videos and things like that that you could watch. And as I develop my online drumming course, which I'm very excited to bring to you. So again, practice, warm up, get things going. One of the things that I find about practice is, like I said before, some of my students do not realize that practice is a thing. Let me show you another view of my Vader percussion dual surface practice pad. Look at that beautiful color. It's very well made. Okay, it's got a little bit of a soft padding on the bottom here for insulation and to give you a quieter sound. If you were to put this on a tabletop, this will kind of deaden the sound that you get, but also it'll keep it in place because of the texture of the bottom here, right? So it's very nice. It fits very nicely in the middle of your snare drum. Vader percussion practice pad and Vader percussion drumsticks. I'm not being paid, but I like this company very much. I use the Stretch 5A drumsticks, which is my favorite drumstick. Although a close second are Vader percussion Power 5Bs, which are bigger, thicker, heavier, bigger tip on it, right? Bigger, rounder tip on it. I really do like the rebound I get from those drumsticks. They're a bit heavier than the Stretch 5As. I go back and forth. The last time I went and played a festival, I ordered some Power 5Bs and I really liked them. And when I went to pick up my Stretch 5As again, I was like, wow, these feel like toothpicks. So I kind of go back and forth. I don't really go back and forth between too many sticks. But the Power 5Bs and the 5A Stretch are my two go-to sticks from Vader Percussion. Hydrate. Everybody hydrate. Everybody watching this video, hydrate. Take a drink. It's very important, and it's so good. Okay, so some of my students don't really even understand that practice is a thing. They think that they come to their lesson, and they magically get better. And they have fun, because we always have fun at our lessons. And we play games, and we play music, and we learn things. But I find that I have to teach my students about practice, which is a very legitimate thing and a very understandable thing. Remember, we're teaching our students to play drums. If it's something they've never done before, we need to teach them all aspects of playing drums. We need to teach them all aspects of taking on new tasks, learning something new. And in my lessons, I like to teach my students how to tackle a problem, how to tackle something that seems impossible, or something that they're not sure about, or something that they're uncomfortable with, or something that they feel like they can't do yet, right? We always teach them, well, I can't do that yet. You can't do it yet. But let's keep working and you'll get there. So it's a great idea, if you are a teacher, to teach your students about practice and about how to practice. I could tell my students every single lesson, make sure you practice this week. But if they go home and I don't specify what I want them to work on, they may not know what to practice. They may not understand what's going to work for them. So maybe they'll play along to a song, or maybe they'll just go down and they'll play the drums. You know, they'll just play. They'll play what they can play. They'll play what they know how to play at the time. And not be super productive in the process. So what I like to do is I like to give them a practice journal. I like to give them a sheet of paper that they take home at the end of each lesson, and they have assignments written down. Okay, so the first item on your practice sheet is I want you to work on single stroke rolls, double stroke rolls, and paradiddles. I want you to play single stroke rolls for 2 minutes, double stroke rolls for 2 minutes, paradiddles for 2 minutes. When you've done that, whatever specific day it is, you check that box. So we know you did that for the day. The next line will have a reading assignment maybe. Okay? Lesson 1 in your reading book, exercise 1 through 5, whatever it is, you spend 10 minutes on that. You go over and over those exercises and you read the exercises and you play what you're reading. Okay, the third item might be play to a song. Maybe we're working on a specific song. Play this song for 10 minutes. Run through it twice or as many times as you want to. And then I might have a fourth item, which is creative time. This last 10 minutes of your practice or 5 minutes of your practice, whatever it is just for you to have fun and play whatever it is you want to play. Whether you want to play stuff that you've already practiced or stuff we've worked on that lesson, or just do your own thing, that's fine. Because I think it's important to give them some creative time, whether it's in the lesson or at practice time. I like to do both, where they can kind of express themselves. Because a lot of times my students come in and they just want to play, they just want to play, they just want to play. So, I try to give them a little bit of time to do that. So they don't feel like it's all books, it's all learning, it's all this and that. And, I have to do this, this, and that. No, I'm going to give you some time where you can actually play, express yourself, and have a good time. And then as time goes on, hopefully those habits start to catch on and they can start to notice that they're getting better, that the practice time is paying off, that the attention and time and detail that they're putting into their practice time is actually paying off. They're getting better. They're able to do things they couldn't do before, or they're getting better at certain things they couldn't do before, or they're able to play a song at speed when they weren't able to do that before. So practice is very important. And again, trying to hit that sweet spot where they start to see the results of their practice time, that's when it kind of starts to kick in, because they need to see a value in practice. Otherwise, it's just kind of homework to them, which is another thing. I don't really refer to it as practice. I like to refer to it as playtime. You're going to set aside a certain amount of playtime to play your drums. And I think that's better than calling it homework or practice time or something that's, I want it to sound fun for them so they can feel better about doing it. But once they can establish the fact that, well, you know what, doing this really does help, doing this is really beneficial, then it might start to catch on and it might start to stick. I have students that from the get-go practice all the time and it shows. I have other students, obviously, that don't, and that's fine too. But we got to help them to figure out that practice is a valuable use of their time. So the more specific you can get with your students about what you want them to practice between lessons, the more success you're going to have in motivating them. Because now they're not sitting at home on their drum set like not sure what to do. And I like to start them out slow, 5 minutes of this, 5 minutes of that, 5 minutes of this. Give me 15 minutes as many days of the week as you can. And then if it catches on, then they'll probably voluntarily practice longer. But again, every student is individually, every student is an individual, every student is different. But the one thing does remain is that practice is super important, super helpful, super beneficial to them. So let's not just teach them theory and ideas and things to do on the drums, but let's teach them how to practice. Let's teach them how to set aside time. Let's teach them how to create a habit out of practicing. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and practice what I've been preaching. See what I did there? And I'm going to spend some time practicing my own stuff. I have some cool stuff coming up, a lot of great projects that I'm working with. And as a matter of fact, this weekend, I'm going to have a writing session here at my studio, which may last a couple of days. And that's a great thing, because I always like when I can get together with my bands and my projects and spend some good time connecting, but then also writing music. So before I go, I want to just quickly let everybody know that there are plenty of videos on my YouTube channel. Please go and check them out. If you like them, hit the like button. If you like what you see on my channel overall, or you like my live, click on the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so that this way when I put up new content, you'll be the first to know. On my channel, you will find drum cover videos, instructional videos. You will find videos of me performing live. There are even some pretty good videos of shows that I've attended, some of my favorite bands. There may even be a couple of voiceover videos of work that I've done. And soon to be student performances from semester shows or shows that have been booked for my students who play in bands, in student bands, or bands that I direct. Really fun to watch my bands go out there and perform in a live situation, because usually it's in a great local venue with a full stage, sound system, lighting system, everything, and my students get to perform. But I'm sure you've heard my previous lives where I've talked up my students to the moon and back because I'm that proud of them. But maybe next time I'll chat a little bit about that. I'll let you know what I do as far as band direction and teaching. But for now, just have fun going through the videos on my channel. You could also see my evolution from when I was in a garage to a very small space, you know, with different cameras and no lighting and all kinds of stuff as I try to find my way through this video lesson thing, which was going to culminate very soon in my online course, which will be the first one I've done, and I'm very, very excited to bring it to you. So anyway, Mark Z Drums across all my socials. Go to my TikTok page. Okay, I'm going to be uploading a whole bunch of new stuff to my TikTok page, but we are growing it, and I want to get to the point where I can live stream because I think that's very fun. I like the TikTok community is very involved, and I think it'll be super cool. Also, let me plug my friend on TikTok, Skinny George. Really good guy, great drummer, great teacher. He's got a lot of really good stuff. He helped me with my hands the other day. He had a contest, which I was lucky enough to win. And he sent me some great stuff in the mail, which I have to do this unboxing video very, very soon. Yesterday, I said I was going to do it today or tomorrow. So it looks like it's going to be tomorrow. But Skinny George on TikTok, give him a shout. Check out his videos. He helped me with my hands like in one lesson. And I was like, whoa, dude. So anyway, that's it for now. I also have a Patreon, which has not launched yet. But if you're curious, you want to go check it out, poke around, see what my first tier is about. I have one tier for entry. That may change as we grow our community. But that's what this is all about, growing our drumming community so that we can help each other, we can network, and we can support each other in what we're trying to do, reaching our goals. So thank you again. This has been Mark Z's Drumcast. And